A racist doctor humiliates a black nurse in front of a patient, unaware of who the patient really is. Maya Johnson stepped into the bustling world of St. Francis Hospital, the familiar scent of antiseptic and the distant echo of medical equipment greeting her like an old friend. It was another day in the ER, where the chaos of life and death played out in rapid succession. As she donned her scrubs, the vibrant blue fabric felt like armor against the challenges she faced daily. "Hey, Maya," called out Sarah, a fellow nurse with a bright smile and a contagious laugh. "Ready for another round of chaos?" Maya chuckled, adjusting her stethoscope. "You know it. Bring it on. Just another day saving lives." The camaraderie among the nurses helped Maya fend off the weight of her responsibilities. She loved her job, loved the moments when a patient's eyes sparkled with gratitude. Today, however, there was a palpable tension in the air. Rumors of Dr. Richard Collins returning from a prestigious conference buzzed among the staff. The man was a legend in the surgical world, but his demeanor often left a bitter taste in the mouths of those who worked with him. As the clock inched toward the start of her shift, Maya prepared herself mentally for the inevitable encounter with Dr. Collins. She had heard stories of how he belittled nurses and made grandstanding displays of power. It was a familiar narrative in the hospital, a hierarchy where some voices drowned out others, simply because of outdated biases. "Maya!" a voice boomed through the ER, slicing through the morning chatter. It was Dr. Collins, his presence both commanding and intimidating. He strode in with the confidence of a man who believed he could bend the world to his will. "Good morning, Dr. Collins," Maya said, forcing a smile as she approached him. Clipboard in hand, she had learned early on to project confidence, even in the face of adversity. "Maya, I need you to prep room 3 for the trauma patient arriving in 5, he ordered, barely making eye contact. "And make sure the IVs are set up correctly. I don't have time for mistakes." Maya's heart sank at the dismissal. "Of course, Dr. Collins. I'll take care of it right away." She felt a familiar knot tighten in her stomach, a mix of anxiety and frustration. It wasn't just the orders, it was the tone, the way he spoke as if her training and expertise were inconsequential. Minutes later, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A gurney rushed through the double doors, a team of paramedics shouting orders. A young man, barely in his 20s, lay unconscious, his face pale and clammy. Maya sprang into action, her training kicking in. "Get me a full set of vitals," she called out, moving swiftly to assess the situation. She glanced at the paramedic, who shook his head grimly. "He went into cardiac arrest. We did what we could." Dr. Collins arrived, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the scene. "What's the status?" he barked, his voice slicing through the chaos. "Blood pressure is critical and he's not responding," Maya reported, maintaining her composure. "We need to start CPR immediately." Dr. Collins seemed to consider her for a moment before he scoffed. "I hope you're not suggesting we start without proper protocols. Get the defibrillator ready, but we need to stabilize him first." Maya felt her cheeks flush as she fought against the urge to snap back. "The protocols require immediate action, Dr. Collins. We can't wait." It was a gamble, but she was done being silenced. The young man's life was at stake. Dr. Collins's eyes darkened, and the room fell silent. "Who do you think you are, Maya? You will follow my orders. This is my patient." The tension escalated, palpable enough to cut through the sterile air. Maya's heart raced, her mind racing through the implications of standing up to him. But she couldn't back down. Not now. Before she could respond, the patient's heart monitor flatlined, the shrill beeping echoing her worst fears. "Code Blue!" someone shouted, and the room erupted into frantic motions. As the team surrounded the gurney, Maya moved quickly, initiating chest compressions. 1 and 2 and 3, she counted rhythmically, her focus sharpening. She blocked out the chaos around her, concentrating on saving the young man's life. Dr. Collins took charge, barking orders to the team, but Maya felt a surge of determination. She was not just a nurse, she was a lifeline for her patients. As they worked together, Maya could sense Dr. Collins's frustration boiling beneath the surface. "Why are you still here, Maya?" he snapped at her, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're just in the way. Let the professionals handle this." Maya's heart raced at the humiliation. She met his gaze, steady and challenging. "I am a professional, Dr. Collins. I'm not going to just stand aside while you dictate how we save this life." His eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment the room felt suspended in time. The tension was electric, the air thick with unspoken words. The other nurses exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and admiration for Maya's courage. "Enough!" Dr. Collins shouted, his authority wavering as the patient's condition continued to deteriorate. "You are not in charge here." Another nurse, Jenna, piped up. "We need to do what's best for the patient, Richard. Maya's right. We can't waste time." Dr. Collins glared at Jenna, but the solidarity from the team emboldened Maya. The urgency of the moment pierced through the tension, and she felt a rush of adrenaline. "Let's work together, Dr. Collins," Maya urged, her voice firm but calm. "We can save him if we act now." For a heartbeat, it seemed as though Dr. Collins might relent. But then, the moment shattered. He leaned closer to Maya, his tone low and laced with contempt. "You think you're so clever, don't you? This is why nurses get no respect." Maya's heart sank at the realization that he was not just a bully. He was a man who thrived on power at the expense of others. But she wouldn't let him break her spirit. She continued the compressions, focusing solely on the patient. The team worked tirelessly, and after what felt like an eternity, the defibrillator was ready. "Clear!" Maya shouted, stepping back as Dr. Collins delivered the shock. The young man's body jolted, his heart monitor temporarily flatlining before a steady rhythm returned. "Get me the ultrasound!" Dr. Collins ordered. The tension in the room shifted as everyone focused intently on the patient. Maya felt a mix of relief and exhaustion wash over her. They had stabilized him, but she couldn't shake the bitterness of the confrontation. It was a small victory, but it had come at a cost. As the chaos began to settle, Maya felt the weight of the moment. Dr. Collins's earlier words echoed in her mind, threatening to drown out her triumph. She had stood her ground, but at what price? "Good work, everyone," Dr. Collins finally acknowledged, his tone begrudgingly respectful. "But let's remember who's in charge next time. Maya, don't think this gives you a free pass to question my authority." Maya swallowed the retort that threatened to spill from her lips. Instead, she focused on the patient, ensuring he was stable before stepping away to catch her breath. The adrenaline faded, leaving her with a sharp sting of humiliation. As she walked down the hall, her heart heavy with uncertainty, she spotted the patient's family waiting anxiously in the waiting area. They had witnessed the chaos, and Maya felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to assure them that their loved one was in good hands. But as she approached, she noticed a woman in a sharp suit standing at the front of the group. Her presence was commanding, and Maya felt an instinctive pull of curiosity. The woman's face was set in a determined expression, and her eyes narrowed as she took in the scene. "Who's in charge here?" the woman demanded, her voice firm. Maya hesitated, but before she could respond, Dr. Collins emerged from the ER, wiping his hands on his scrubs. "I am, ma'am. Can I help you?" The woman's expression darkened, and Maya felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps there was someone who would stand up against Dr. Collins, someone who would champion the voices that often went unheard. Maya felt her heart pound as she waited for the woman's response. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Dr. Collins, his arrogance on full display, stood with his arms crossed, a smug expression on his face. "I'm here to speak with the family of the patient you just treated," the woman stated, her voice steady and unwavering. "And I'd like to know why there was such an obvious lack of professionalism in the ER just now. I saw everything." Dr. Collins's demeanor shifted slightly, the confidence wavering. "That's not how we operate here, ma'am. I assure you, we did everything necessary to stabilize him." Maya stepped forward, her resolve hardening. "Dr. Collins undermined my suggestions during the code blue. I was trying to advocate for the patient's best care." The woman's attention moved to Maya, her gaze intense. "And who are you?" "Maya Johnson, nurse," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within her. The woman's expression softened slightly, as if measuring Maya's sincerity. "I'm Patricia Williams, a civil rights attorney. I've been here to meet with some colleagues about hospital practices, but I couldn't help overhearing." Dr. Collins looked between them, clearly irritated. "This is not the time for discussions about protocol. The patient is stable now. Let's focus on what matters." Maya couldn't let it go. What matters is that a power struggle in the ER nearly cost this man his life. It's not just about following orders. It's about working as a team. Patricia nodded slowly, clearly impressed by Maya's courage. You're absolutely right. And it's unacceptable that you were treated that way, especially when you were trying to act in the best interest of the patient. Dr. Collins opened his mouth, ready to retort, but Patricia interrupted. Dr. Collins, it's important to remember that respect is a two-way street. If you want your staff to follow your lead, you must also foster an environment where they feel valued and heard. Maya watched as Dr. Collins's expression shifted from irritation to something resembling frustration, the kind that came from being challenged in front of others. He straightened his posture, attempting to regain control of the situation. I manage a busy ER, Ms. Williams. Sometimes decisions have to be made quickly, he said, his tone defensive. Decisions made quickly shouldn't come at the expense of teamwork, Patricia replied, her voice unwavering. If this hospital wants to maintain its reputation, changes need to be made. Maya felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Here was someone who understood the importance of advocating for those who often went unheard. She wanted to share her experiences, to shed light on the toxic culture that permeated the hospital. Thank you for standing up for me, Maya said quietly to Patricia, her voice almost lost in the tension. I've faced this kind of treatment for too long. Patricia's gaze softened further. Your voice matters, Maya. We need to address these issues, not only for you, but for all the staff members who feel the same way. Before Maya could respond, Dr. Collins interjected again, his voice rising slightly. This is not the appropriate venue for this discussion. If you have concerns, schedule a meeting with hospital administration. Maya felt her frustration bubble to the surface. No, Dr. Collins, it's not just about scheduling meetings. It's about accountability. And this is the moment to talk about it. Dr. Collins's jaw clenched, and for a moment Maya sensed he might actually take a step back. But instead, he took a breath and straightened once more. I'll be in my office. If you need me, Ms. Johnson, you know where to find me. He turned on his heel, striding away with purpose, leaving behind an uncomfortable silence. Patricia's eyes followed him, then returned to Maya. You did well standing your ground like that. It's not easy to confront someone in a position of power. I'm tired of being belittled. This isn't just about me, it's about everyone who works here, who feels like they don't have a voice. Maya admitted, the words spilling out as if they had been bottled up for too long. I understand, Patricia said, her tone empathetic. I want to help you. If you're willing, I'd like to hear your story and potentially bring it to light. We need to create a shift in the culture here. Maya felt an overwhelming mix of emotions, hope, fear, and a surge of determination. I'd like that. I've wanted to speak out for so long, but I've always been afraid of the repercussions. Patricia placed a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. You're not alone anymore. Together, we can make a difference. In that moment, Maya felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't experienced in years. Perhaps this was the turning point she had been waiting for. Just then, a nurse rushed past them, urgency etched on her face. Maya, we need you in room 5. Another trauma just came in. Maya nodded, adrenaline surging back as she focused on her duties. I have to go. Thank you, Patricia. I'll find you later. Of course, Patricia replied, stepping back to allow Maya to pass. You're doing important work. Don't forget that. Maya rushed back into the fray, her heart pounding, but this time it was not just anxiety. It was a renewed sense of purpose. She was determined to make her voice heard, to advocate not only for herself, but for every nurse and staff member who had faced similar struggles. As she entered room 5, the scene unfolded rapidly. A young girl, no older than 16, lay on the gurney, her face pale and her breathing shallow. The air was thick with urgency, and Maya's instincts kicked in. Get me an IV and let's start with a saline drip, she called out, her voice steadier now, fueled by the adrenaline and her newfound determination. The team moved quickly, and as Maya worked, she felt a surge of confidence. She was in her element, focused solely on the patient before her. In that moment, the chaos of the hospital became a symphony of collaboration, each team member playing their part. As they stabilized the girl, Maya caught a glimpse of the waiting area through the glass doors. She spotted Patricia speaking with the girl's family, her presence commanding yet approachable. Maya felt a sense of relief wash over her. She was no longer alone in her fight. After several tense minutes, the girl's condition began to stabilize, Maya stepped back to catch her breath, gratitude swelling in her chest. She was reminded of why she had chosen this profession. Because people needed her voice, her care, and her compassion. As the shift wore on, Maya found moments to reflect on the day's events. She thought of Patricia's words and the promise of change. Perhaps this was the beginning of something significant, not just for her, but for the entire hospital community. Maya emerged from the chaos of the ER, her heart still racing, but filled with hope. She could feel the tide beginning to shift, and she was determined to be part of that change. In that moment, as the sun began to set outside the hospital windows, casting a warm glow through the sterile halls, Maya realized that she was ready to fight for herself and for those who felt voiceless. And as she plunged back into the rhythm of the ER, a new sense of purpose ignited within her, illuminating the path ahead. Maya emerged from the frantic atmosphere of the ER into the quieter corridors of St. Francis Hospital, her mind racing with thoughts of her earlier confrontation with Dr. Collins and the unexpected support from Patricia Williams. The adrenaline from the day's events still coursed through her veins, but it was mingled with a sense of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. She made her way to the break room, eager to catch her breath and gather her thoughts. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as she stepped inside, greeted by the familiar sight of her colleagues sharing stories and laughter over coffee. But today, the laughter felt muted, overshadowed by the tension that had unfolded earlier. "Maya, you okay?" Jenna asked, her tone laced with genuine concern. "I saw what happened with Dr. Collins. That was intense." Maya nodded, grateful for Jenna's support. "Yeah, it was rough, but I had to stand up for myself. I can't let him treat me or anyone else like that anymore." Jenna's expression shifted to one of admiration. "I'm proud of you. Honestly, it takes guts to confront someone like that, especially in front of a patient." "I just hope it doesn't come back to bite me," Maya replied, anxiety creeping back in. "I can't afford to lose my job. Not now." "Don't think like that," Jenna encouraged, pouring herself another cup of coffee. "You did the right thing. If more people spoke up, maybe we wouldn't have to deal with this kind of nonsense." Maya appreciated Jenna's support, but self-doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. What if Dr. Collins retaliated? What if her career suffered because she chose to defend herself? As she took a sip of her lukewarm coffee, she felt the warmth spread through her, a small comfort in the chaos. Suddenly, the break room door swung open, and in walked Dr. Collins, his presence filling the space. The atmosphere shifted instantly, the laughter died down, and colleagues exchanged wary glances. Maya's heart raced as she braced herself for another confrontation. "Everyone, I need your attention," Dr. Collins announced, his voice authoritative. "I expect professionalism at all times in this hospital. We're a team, and that means respecting the chain of command. I won't tolerate insubordination." Maya felt her pulse quicken, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Insubordination? I was advocating for the patient's life." Dr. Collins turned to her, his eyes narrowing. "You can voice your opinions, but you need to do it respectfully. I'm the attending physician. It's my responsibility to make the final call." "That's not how teamwork works, Dr. Collins," Maya shot back, her frustration boiling over. "You can't just dismiss everyone else's input because you think you know best." "Enough," Dr. Collins barked, surprising the entire room. "If you can't follow orders, perhaps this isn't the right place for you." Maya felt the heat rise to her cheeks, her heart pounding. She was on the verge of saying something she might regret when Patricia stepped into the break room behind Dr. Collins, her presence commanding attention. "Excuse me, Dr. Collins," Patricia interjected, her voice steady. "I believe there's a larger issue at play here. It's not just about orders. It's about creating a culture of respect and collaboration." Dr. Collins' expression darkened as he faced Patricia, clearly unprepared for her presence. "And who are you to dictate how I run my team?" "I'm someone who cares about the well-being of the staff and the patients," Patricia replied, her tone unwavering. "And I'm here to ensure that everyone in this hospital feels valued and heard." Maya felt a surge of gratitude for Patricia's intervention. The tension in the room shifted slightly, the air thick with anticipation. "Maybe you should take a step back and consider how your leadership style affects those around you," Patricia continued. "If you want to maintain a high standard of care, you need to foster an environment where your team feels safe to speak up." Dr. Collins scoffed, crossing his arms defensively. I don't need lessons on leadership from a civil rights attorney. Actually, you do, Patricia shot back. Your approach is not only damaging to your staff, but could potentially harm patients. This isn't just about you. It's about the whole hospital. Maya watched, her heart racing as the confrontation unfolded. She felt a rush of empowerment seeing someone stand up to Dr. Collins, and it filled her with hope. Maybe change was possible after all. Dr. Collins's jaw clenched, and for a moment it seemed he might relent. "This is a hospital, not a courtroom," he finally said, his voice low. "If you continue to interfere in my practice, I will have to escalate this matter." Patricia didn't back down. "I will not be intimidated. We both care about the same thing, the patients. But if you think that bullying your staff is the way to achieve that, you're mistaken." Maya felt the weight of the moment settle over her like a shroud. This was no longer just about her. It was about the culture of the entire hospital. "Enough of this," Dr. Collins finally said, frustration evident in his voice. "I have patients to attend to. We'll discuss this later." He turned and stormed out of the break room, leaving a charged silence in his wake. As the tension dissipated, Maya turned to Patricia, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for standing up to him. I don't think I could have done that without your support." Patricia smiled warmly. "You're stronger than you realize, Maya. You have a voice, and it deserves to be heard. We'll work on creating a space where everyone feels empowered to speak up." Maya couldn't help but feel a swell of hope. Perhaps this was the moment when things would start to change. They gathered their things and headed back to the ER, the energy in the hospital feeling different somehow, lighter, as if a storm had passed. As they returned, Maya was struck by the sense of urgency that filled the air. The nurses moved with purpose, and she could feel the shift in the atmosphere. It was as if everyone was ready to rally together against the toxic culture that had persisted for far too long. "Let's keep this momentum going," Patricia said as they walked side by side. "We need to gather stories, create a dialogue about what we can do to change the environment here." Maya nodded, her mind racing with ideas. "We could organize meetings, bring in guest speakers, maybe even start a support group for staff to share their experiences." "That's exactly what I was thinking," Patricia replied, her enthusiasm infectious. "We need to create a safe space where everyone feels comfortable sharing their stories. It's time to break the silence." As they entered the ER, a new patient was being wheeled in, and the chaos resumed. But this time, Maya felt different. She felt empowered, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of activity. Maya moved from room to room, tending to patients while keeping an eye on her colleagues. There was an unspoken understanding in the air. Everyone was aware of the need for change, and together they began to shift the dynamics of the ER. As the clock approached the end of the shift, Maya felt a sense of camaraderie grow among the staff. Conversations flowed more freely, laughter echoed in the halls, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of belonging. Just as she was finishing up her final rounds, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, she saw a message from Patricia. "Let's meet tomorrow to discuss our next steps. We're going to make a difference." Maya smiled, her heart swelling with anticipation. This was just the beginning. The next day, Maya arrived at the hospital with a renewed sense of purpose. The events of the previous shift still echoed in her mind, a mix of adrenaline and hope propelling her forward. She was eager to meet with Patricia Williams and discuss their plans to address the toxic culture within St. Francis Hospital. As she stepped into the break room, she spotted Patricia already seated at a table, reviewing notes on her laptop. The sight of Patricia, poised and focused, filled Maya with optimism. This was a woman who believed in change, and together, they could make a real difference. "Good morning, Patricia," Maya greeted, her voice bright. "I'm excited to dive into our plans today." Patricia looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Maya. I've been compiling some resources and ideas for how we can approach this. I think we have a real opportunity to create a positive dialogue." Maya took a seat across from Patricia and leaned in. "I've been thinking about how we can engage everyone in the hospital. Maybe we could start with an all-staff meeting to discuss experiences and gather input." "That's a fantastic idea," Patricia replied, her eyes lighting up. "Bringing everyone together will help establish a sense of community and encourage those who feel marginalized to speak out." Maya felt a surge of excitement. We could set up a safe space where people can share their stories without fear of judgment or retaliation. It's so important for everyone to know they're not alone in this. Patricia nodded in agreement. And we should consider inviting guest speakers, experts in workplace culture and diversity. They could provide valuable insights and strategies for fostering an inclusive environment. As they brainstormed ideas, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. She thought of the nurses, the doctors, and the support staff who had endured similar challenges. Everyone deserved to have their voices amplified, and they needed a platform to express their concerns. What about creating a dedicated committee? Maya suggested. A group of staff members from different departments who can continuously work on improving our culture and addressing issues as they arise. I love that idea, Patricia said, jotting down notes. We can present this during the all-staff meeting and encourage volunteers to join. It'll give people a sense of ownership in the process. As they continued to outline their plans, the excitement in the room grew. They discussed the logistics of organizing the meeting, creating flyers, and spreading the word throughout the hospital. Maya felt invigorated, her passion for advocating for her colleagues fueling her determination. Just then, the door swung open, and Jenna walked in, a bright smile on her face. "Hey, you two! What's the buzz?" Maya glanced at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. "We're planning an all-staff meeting to address the issues in the hospital and promote a culture of respect and collaboration." Jenna's eyes widened with enthusiasm. "That's amazing. I've heard so many people talking about the need for change. We need a platform to voice our experiences." "Exactly," Maya replied, her heart swelling with hope. "We want to create a safe space where everyone feels comfortable sharing their stories." Jenna leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Count me in. I'll help spread the word and encourage others to join. This is long overdue." As they continued to discuss their plans, more staff members trickled into the break room, curious about the conversation. Maya felt a sense of camaraderie building among her colleagues, a shared desire for change sparking conversations. Before long, they had formed a small gathering, each person contributing ideas and expressing their support for the initiative. The energy in the room was electric, and Maya couldn't help but smile as she watched her colleagues rally together. "Let's set a date for the meeting," Patricia suggested, her voice steady. "We need to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to attend." As they settled on a date, Maya felt a sense of purpose wash over her. This was more than just a meeting, it was a movement. They were creating a community that would advocate for one another, a network of support that would challenge the status quo. As the discussion continued, Maya noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The walls that had once felt so oppressive were beginning to crumble, replaced by a sense of empowerment and unity. Her colleagues were no longer afraid to voice their concerns, and it was invigorating to witness. Finally, as the meeting wrapped up, Jenna leaned in closer to Maya. "I just wanted to say thank you for leading this charge. It takes guts to stand up to someone like Dr. Collins, and you're inspiring all of us." Maya felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. "I couldn't have done it without all of you. This is a team effort, and together we can create the change we want to see." After the meeting, Maya and Patricia walked through the hospital corridors, discussing the next steps. "I'm so glad we had that conversation," Patricia said. "It's clear that there's a hunger for change among the staff. We just need to keep the momentum going." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of determination. "I want to make sure we reach out to everyone, even those who might be hesitant to speak up. There are so many people who've felt marginalized here." Patricia smiled, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "That's the spirit. We'll make sure everyone knows they're welcome in this conversation. It's time for the hospital to reflect the diversity of the community it serves." As they continued down the hallway, Maya felt a sense of hope blooming within her. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but she was ready to face them. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for her colleagues, for the patients, and for a future where everyone felt valued and respected. That evening, Maya returned home, her mind still buzzing with ideas. She grabbed a notebook and began to jot down her thoughts, outlining the key points they would present at the meeting. She wanted to ensure that every voice was heard and that the message of unity resonated throughout the hospital. As she wrote, her phone buzzed with a message from Patricia. "Let's meet tomorrow to finalize our presentation for the all-staff meeting. I have a few ideas I want to discuss." Maya smiled, her heart racing with excitement. She quickly typed a response. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. After finishing her notes, she settled onto the couch, reflecting on the day's events. It was a strange feeling. She had gone from being a nurse who felt invisible to someone who was actively working to change the narrative. She was ready to embrace her role as an advocate for herself and her colleagues. The next morning, as Maya prepared for her shift, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She envisioned the meeting filled with her colleagues, all sharing their experiences and supporting one another. It was a vision worth striving for. When she arrived at the hospital, the energy felt different. There was an undercurrent of anticipation in the air, a collective awareness that change was on the horizon. As she moved through the ER, she exchanged knowing glances with her colleagues, who seemed more engaged and willing to share their thoughts. By the time her shift ended, the excitement had reached a fever pitch. Maya was confident that the all-staff meeting would be a turning point, and she was ready to embrace the challenge ahead. As she walked out of the hospital that evening, the sun setting behind the building, Maya felt a sense of pride swell within her. She was part of something bigger, a movement destined to transform the culture of St. Francis Hospital. With Patricia by her side and a growing network of supportive colleagues, Maya was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, fueled by the unwavering belief that together they could create a healthier, more inclusive environment for everyone. As the day of the all-staff meeting approached, the atmosphere at St. Francis Hospital shifted palpably. There was a buzz of excitement and anticipation among the staff, a sense that they were on the brink of something significant. Posters adorned the hallways, announcing the meeting and encouraging everyone to attend. Maya felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration as she prepared her presentation with Patricia. On the morning of the meeting, Maya arrived early, her heart racing. She glanced around the conference room, which was already filling with her colleagues. Nurses, doctors, and support staff mingled, their conversations a blend of laughter and hushed whispers. It was a sight that filled Maya with hope. Patricia arrived shortly after, carrying a laptop and a stack of handouts. "We're ready to make an impact," she said, her voice steady and encouraging. "Remember, this is about creating a space for everyone to share their experiences. We want to empower them." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I just hope everyone feels comfortable enough to speak up." "You've already done the hardest part by standing up to Dr. Collins. This meeting is your chance to show them that their voices matter too," Patricia reassured her. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, Maya glanced at the door, anxiously waiting for the last few attendees to arrive. Finally, the room was full, and it was time to begin. Maya took a deep breath, stepping to the front of the room as everyone settled into their seats. "Thank you all for being here today," Maya began, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "We're here to talk about creating a culture of respect and collaboration within our hospital. It's time for us to share our experiences and work together toward meaningful change." Maya felt the energy in the room shift as she spoke. The audience was engaged, leaning forward in their chairs. "We know that many of you have faced challenges, whether it's feeling unheard, marginalized, or disrespected. We want to create a safe space for everyone to voice their concerns and ideas." Patricia stood beside Maya, nodding in agreement. "It's essential that we foster an environment where everyone feels valued and empowered. Change begins with open dialogue and collaboration." Maya continued, outlining the meeting's agenda and inviting participants to share their stories. She felt a surge of confidence as she spoke, the weight of her responsibilities tempered by the support surrounding her. "Let's start with some of the experiences you've had," Maya prompted. "If anyone feels comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear your stories." A moment of silence hung in the air, and Maya felt her heart race. What if no one spoke up? But then, a nurse named Lisa raised her hand hesitantly. "I'll go first," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been a nurse here for 5 years, and there have been countless times I felt disrespected, especially when it comes to my opinions on patient care. I've been dismissed in front of patients, just like Maya was the other day." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Maya felt a surge of solidarity, knowing that Lisa's bravery had encouraged others to share their experiences. "I felt the same way," said another nurse, a veteran named Tom. "It's frustrating when you know what's best for your patients but feel like no one listens. We should be working together, not against each other." As each person spoke, the atmosphere shifted. More staff members began to share their stories, doctors revealing their struggles with burnout, support staff discussing their experiences with disrespect, and nurses recounting moments of humiliation. Maya listened intently, her heart heavy with empathy, but also soaring with hope. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, the chance to voice their frustrations and advocate for change together. Patricia stood up next, her presence commanding. What you are all describing is part of a larger issue, one that affects not only our work environment, but also the quality of care we provide to our patients. We need to take these stories and turn them into action. Maya felt a rush of gratitude for Patricia's leadership. They had created a space for vulnerability, and now it was time to channel that energy into concrete steps toward change. Let's talk about solutions, Maya said, her voice steady. We've already discussed forming a committee to address these issues. This will be a group of staff members from different departments working together to create initiatives that promote respect, collaboration, and inclusion. Some staff members nodded in agreement, while others whispered among themselves, clearly intrigued by the idea. We can start by setting up regular meetings where everyone can come together and discuss their experiences, Patricia suggested. We can also bring in guest speakers who specialize in workplace culture and diversity to provide insights and strategies. Maya continued, her heart racing with excitement. And we can develop training programs focused on communication and teamwork, ensuring that everyone understands the importance of fostering a supportive environment. As the discussion progressed, the energy in the room transformed from hesitation to enthusiasm. Ideas flowed freely, and Maya felt a sense of unity among her colleagues. They were no longer just individuals working in silos. They were a community ready to advocate for one another. I think it's crucial that we develop a feedback system, suggested Jenna, who had been listening intently. We need a way for staff to report their experiences anonymously, so they feel safe sharing their concerns without fear of retaliation. That's a great idea, Maya agreed. We can implement a system that allows everyone to voice their concerns and suggestions while protecting their identities. It's important that we create a culture of transparency. As the meeting continued, more staff members chimed in, their voices filled with passion and conviction. They discussed ways to engage with patients and their families, ensuring that their voices were heard as well. It became clear that the impact of their efforts would extend beyond the hospital walls. After what felt like hours, the meeting began to wind down. Maya looked around the room, her heart swelling with pride. They had accomplished so much in such a short amount of time, and the spirit of collaboration was palpable. Thank you all for sharing your stories and ideas today, Maya said, her voice filled with gratitude. This is just the beginning. Together we can create a culture where everyone feels respected and valued. As people began to gather their things, Patricia approached Maya with a smile. You did an incredible job facilitating this meeting. I'm so proud of you. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. I couldn't have done it without your support. This is just the start. We need to keep this momentum going. I agree, Patricia replied. Let's schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss our next steps and ensure that we're holding ourselves accountable for the changes we want to see. As they exchanged ideas, Maya felt a surge of determination. They were on the brink of creating a meaningful shift within St. Francis Hospital, and she was ready to see it through. In the days that followed, Maya dedicated herself to the cause, reaching out to her colleagues and encouraging them to participate in the newly formed committee. She organized regular meetings, ensuring that everyone had a chance to voice their concerns and contribute to the discussions. With Patricia's guidance, they began to implement training sessions focused on communication, collaboration, and diversity. The turnout was promising, and Maya felt a sense of fulfillment as she watched her colleagues engage in meaningful conversations. One afternoon, as Maya was wrapping up a training session, she received a message from Jenna. I just heard from a patient's family who wanted to thank us for the care they received. They said it was clear that we genuinely care about our patients and their well-being. Maya's heart soared. This was exactly what they had aimed to achieve. A culture of compassion that extended beyond the staff and into the lives of their patients. But not everyone was supportive of the changes taking place. Dr. Collins had remained mostly silent since the all-staff meeting, but Maya could sense the tension brewing. He would occasionally make snide comments during meetings, questioning the need for the committee and belittling the efforts of those advocating for change. One day, as Maya was reviewing feedback from the new communication training, she overheard Dr. Collins speaking with another physician in the hallway. This committee is a waste of time. We need to focus on patient care, not coddling the staff, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Maya felt a surge of determination. She had faced him once before and she could do it again. She approached them, her heart pounding. Dr. Collins, with all due respect, fostering a supportive environment for staff is essential to providing quality patient care. Happy, respected staff lead to better patient outcomes. Dr. Collins turned to her, a sneer playing on his lips. You really think you can change the culture here, Maya? You're naive if you believe that. Maya held his gaze, her heart racing, but her resolve unwavering. Change is possible, but only if we all work together. I believe in this hospital and in my colleagues. We're committed to making a difference, and you could be a part of it if you chose to. Dr. Collins scoffed, shaking his head. Good luck with your little committee. I'll be watching closely to see just how much of an impact you think you can make. As he walked away, Maya felt a mix of frustration and determination. She knew that change wouldn't come easily, but she was ready to fight for it. The support of her colleagues and the progress they had made fueled her passion. Days turned into weeks, and the committee continued to gain momentum. Maya felt a sense of purpose each time she walked through the hospital corridors. As the weeks rolled on, Maya found herself more determined than ever to push for change at St. Francis Hospital. The committee had made significant strides, fostering a sense of camaraderie among staff members and encouraging open dialogue about the challenges they faced. Yet the shadow of Dr. Collins loomed large, and Maya knew that as they made progress, he would not take it lightly. One afternoon, while meeting with Patricia and a few other committee members, Maya received an urgent message from Jenna. Maya, Dr. Collins is calling an emergency meeting with the leadership team. He's planning to address the committee and our recent initiatives. We need to be prepared. Maya's stomach twisted in knots. She had anticipated some pushback, but she hadn't expected him to confront them so publicly. What do we do? She asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling inside her. Patricia leaned forward, her expression serious. We prepare a clear presentation that outlines the benefits of our initiatives and provides evidence of improved staff morale and patient care. We need to show them that what we're doing is making a difference. Maya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. They had worked too hard to let Dr. Collins undermine their efforts. Let's gather data from the feedback surveys and success stories from staff. We can also include testimonials from patients who have noticed the positive changes. As they brainstormed, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were ready to stand their ground and fight for the changes they believed in. The following day, they met with the leadership team, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. The room was filled with department heads, including Dr. Collins, who sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Maya felt a mix of apprehension and determination as she prepared to speak. Thank you all for being here today, Maya began, her voice steady as she faced her colleagues. We're here to share the progress our committee has made in fostering a culture of respect and collaboration within the hospital. Our goal is to improve not only staff morale, but also the quality of patient care. Dr. Collins leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a skeptical expression on his face. And how do you intend to achieve that? By coddling the staff? Maya felt a flash of indignation but pushed it aside. Actually, we've gathered evidence showing that supportive work environments lead to better patient outcomes. When staff feel valued, they're more engaged in their work and can provide higher quality care. She continued, outlining the initiatives they had implemented: regular meetings for staff to share experiences, training sessions on communication and teamwork, and the anonymous feedback system that allowed everyone to voice their concerns without fear of retaliation. As she spoke, Maya could see the expressions of the other leaders shifting. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged glances, clearly intrigued by what she was saying. Furthermore, Maya added, we've received positive feedback from both staff and patients. Several nurses reported feeling more supported in their roles, which has directly impacted patient satisfaction scores. Dr. Collins interrupted, his tone dismissive. But what about the costs? These initiatives require resources and time. We can't afford to waste our budget on something as trivial as staff happiness. Patricia stepped in, her voice calm yet firm. Dr. Collins, investing in staff well-being is an investment in patient care. The research shows that hospitals that prioritize staff satisfaction see lower turnover rates, fewer errors, and ultimately, better patient outcomes. It's not trivial. It's essential. Maya felt a surge of gratitude for Patricia's support. The room was charged with energy, the tension palpable as the leadership team absorbed their arguments. But Dr. Collins was not finished. And what about accountability? How can we ensure that these initiatives don't become another box to check? Maya took a deep breath, determined to address his concerns head-on. We're proposing that our committee not only oversees these initiatives, but also regularly evaluates their effectiveness. We'll establish metrics to measure progress and report back to leadership. This is about transparency and accountability. The conversation continued, with Maya and Patricia fielding questions and counter-arguments from Dr. Collins and other leaders. Each response they provided was met with a mix of skepticism and curiosity, but Maya felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. More and more, her colleagues were beginning to see the value in what they were fighting for. After what felt like an eternity, the meeting came to a close. Dr. Collins's expression was one of frustration, but he couldn't deny the support the committee was receiving from the other leadership team members. "I'll consider your proposal," he said curtly, standing up and gathering his papers. "But I expect results. We can't afford to waste time on fluff." As he exited the room, Maya exhaled, her heart racing. They had stood their ground, and for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope that change might truly be possible. In the days that followed, the committee continued to gather momentum. Word of their efforts spread throughout the hospital, and more staff members began to express interest in getting involved. Maya felt a sense of pride as she witnessed the transformation taking place around her. One afternoon, as she was reviewing feedback forms with Jenna, she received a notification on her phone. It was an email from Dr. Collins. He wanted to meet with her and Patricia to discuss the implementation of their initiatives. Maya's heart raced. This could be a pivotal moment. "Do you think he's coming around?" she asked Jenna, her voice filled with cautious optimism. "Only one way to find out," Jenna replied, a smile on her face. "You got this." The next day, Maya and Patricia walked into Dr. Collins's office, both feeling a mix of nerves and anticipation. He was seated behind his desk, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming," he said, his tone surprisingly neutral. "I've reviewed your proposals, and I have some thoughts." Maya and Patricia exchanged glances, unsure of what to expect. "I still have reservations about some of these initiatives," Dr. Collins continued, "but I can see that there's a genuine interest among the staff. Perhaps we can move forward with a pilot program to test your ideas in one department." Maya's heart soared. "That sounds like a great first step. We can gather data and feedback to determine the effectiveness of the initiatives." Dr. Collins nodded slowly. "I'll approve the pilot program, but I expect you to report back regularly. If this doesn't yield results, I'll reconsider our approach." "Thank you, Dr. Collins," Maya said, her voice steady. "We're committed to making this work." As they left his office, Patricia turned to Maya, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This is a huge win. We're finally on the path to meaningful change." Maya felt a sense of relief wash over her, but she knew the journey was far from over. They would need to work diligently to ensure that the pilot program was successful and that the culture within the hospital continued to evolve. In the months that followed, the pilot program launched successfully, garnering positive feedback from staff and patients alike. The committee met regularly, assessing progress and adjusting their initiatives as needed. Maya felt a sense of pride as she watched her colleagues come together, united in their commitment to creating a better work environment. One afternoon, as she sat in the conference room with the committee, Jenna shared an email she had received from a patient's family. They wanted to express their gratitude for the care they received and mentioned how supportive the staff was during their loved one's treatment. They noted a significant difference from previous experiences. Tears pricked at Maya's eyes as she listened to Jenna read the email. This was what she had fought for. This was the impact of the changes they had made. As the pilot program continued to flourish, Maya received an email inviting her to speak at a conference about the initiatives and the importance of fostering a respectful workplace. She felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was an opportunity to amplify the voices of those who had stood with her throughout this journey. That day, as she prepared for her presentation, Maya reflected on how far she had come. She had gone from being a nurse who felt invisible to someone who had taken a stand for herself and her colleagues. The fight for change was far from over, but she was ready to embrace it. On the day of the conference, Maya stood in front of a crowd of peers, sharing her story and the journey they had undertaken at St. Francis Hospital. She spoke passionately about the importance of collaboration, respect, and open dialogue, emphasizing that change was possible when everyone worked together. As she concluded her presentation, the audience erupted into applause. Maya felt a rush of emotion as she realized that their fight had resonated with others. They were not alone. There were countless individuals out there advocating for change in their own workplaces. Returning to the hospital, Maya was met with smiles and congratulations from her colleagues. They were proud of the progress they had made together, and Maya felt a renewed sense of energy as they continued to build on their successes. In the years that followed, the initiatives blossomed, transforming St. Francis Hospital into a beacon of collaboration and respect. Maya knew that change was a continuous journey, but she was ready to embrace every challenge that lay ahead, alongside her colleagues who had become like family. As she walked through the halls of the hospital, she felt a sense of belonging and purpose. They had created a culture where every voice mattered, and she was proud to be part of it. And as the sun set outside, casting a warm glow through the windows, Maya smiled, knowing that together, they had made a difference. You've made it to the end. If you enjoyed this story, I am confident that you'll love the next one appearing on the screen now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and please give this video a like. I'll see you in the next one.